Massive protests have erupted across Sri Lankan capital Colombo against the worsening economic crisis in the country. People led by opposition leaders chanted slogans against the government and asked for regime change. The island nation is going through unprecedented times owing to a Forex crisis that has severely affected the fuel supply, thereby creating a shortage that has affected nearly all aspects of people's everyday lives.
Hundreds of Sri Lankans, led by opposition leaders, took to the streets of capital Colombo against the worsening economic crisis in the country. The crisis that cropped up with shortages of Forex reserves has triggered a massive fuel shortage, with people suffering the woes of hours-long load shedding and rapidly escalating food inflation. They sloganeered against Rajapaksas, who have been at the helm of Sri Lankan affairs, accusing them of mismanaging the country's economy and failing to bring enough foreign currency in times of crisis. Protesters let off firecrackers and marched near the president's office, where they were stopped by the armed security personnel. People said their livelihood was getting affected severely due to the crisis. They also chanted slogans demanding a change in the regime.
ජීවන ජීවන මරණ නිසා ජීවත් වීම නිසා පඩියට වැටු ජීවත් වෙන නිසා මේ රජයට වෙනස් කරලා අපිට එවැනි සහනයක් ලැබෙන රජයක් ලබාගෙන බලපෑම් තමයි අපි ආවේ.
The Indian Ocean nation's foreign exchange reserves have fallen 70% in the past 2 years to about $2.31 billion, leaving it struggling to pay for essential imports including food and fuel. Meanwhile, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who had earlier changed several ministers in a snap cabinet reshuffle, addressed the nation and said his government was in negotiations with the International Monetary Fund in order to seek its help in resolving the country's crisis. He also informed that his government had set a target of cutting its trade deficit by about 14% to $7 billion this year from $8.1 billion last year. Sri Lankan government is also expecting $5 billion in remittances, which might provide some reprieve to the island nation.
ජාත්‍යන්තර මූල්‍ය අරමුදල සමග ඊයේ පැවැත් වූ සාකච්ඡාවත් මේ අරමුණින් කළ එකක්. ඒ සාකච්ඡාව තුළින් අප බලාපොරොත්තු වන්නේ වසරකට අප ගෙවිය යුතු ණයවාරික ස්වෛරීත්ව බැඳුම් කර ආදිය ගෙවීම් සඳහා ක්‍රමවේදයක් සලසා ගැනීමයි. ජාත්‍යන්තර මූල්‍ය අරමුදල සමග මා කළ සාකච්ඡාවට පසුව වාසි හා අවාසි අධ්‍යයනය කොට තවදුරටත් ඔවුන් සමග එක්ව කටයුතු කිරීමට මා තීරණය කළා.
Earlier, after the appeal made by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, the government had imposed curbs on the import of non-essential commodities, including fish, footwear and wine. Not only the Sri Lankan's reserves have dipped to $2.3 billion, the government is also due to repay a debt of about $4 billion in the remainder of this year. Sri Lanka has received financial support from its neighbor India and China in the form of credit lines and currency swaps, but that hasn't proven enough to pull it out of the crisis. The government has thus far made several assurances, saying crisis will be over in a few days from now, but all the cameras could have witnessed so far is lengthening queues for fuel and gas and hours of darkness every day.